Okay, so compliance without getting overwhelmed for small businesses. I just want to first start by saying most small businesses aren't behind because they're lazy. I would say they're behind because it's not explained in a way that doesn't confuse organizations and translate to real operations. I think that's the biggest thing that we kind of spoke with before. Excuse me. Um, I'm sorry, one second. I don't know why it's down here. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Sorry, you meant
Sorry
earlier.
about that. So, um, so what we like to do with in cyber security and technology is we like to focus on helping small businesses understand that it's beyond compliance. Like John was saying, security isn't just compliance. It's more so about protecting your ability to win and keep your contract. So if your objective, which I'm sure most of you that are here, that is the objective, is to maintain your contracts. So the biggest risk would be failing your assessment, not being prepared, and not being ready for opportunity and to set yourself apart from what most organizations are scrambling to do now. Many of you are aware that November of this year of 2026 is fastly approaching. And although you may feel like there's time, where we don't want to wait. We don't want to wait till the end of the year. We want to get in compliance now. We want to make sure that we are prepared. And um, I like to break it down by providing questionnaires, going through your contract. So reading through your contract, seeing where you stand, what's required to maintain that contract. Are you level 1? Are you level 2? Perform internal and informal readiness checks before you decide to reach out to support. Um, Many small businesses are on the verge of losing opportunities. I wouldn't say because they're not capable, but because they're not prepared. They're not prepared and they can't demonstrate what they have in place, even if it's basic frameworks that they may already even have implemented. They just can't seem to wrap their head around as to where to start. So I know that you're aware that there's 3 levels. I'm going to talk about level 1 and level 2 because that's where most of my assistance and firm works within. So level 1, level 1 handles FCI, which is federal contract information. It's only 17 practices and you can perform a self-assessment. I like to recommend before you enter in any information and provide that self-assessment that you actually reach out to a consultant, possibly to make sure that all your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed, and everything that you feel is prepared before you input anything into SPRS. And if you're not familiar with that, that's towards the end. Level 2 is 110 controls, and it's if you're handling CUI. Some people may feel, oh, but I only do just this one little thing, it counts. So even if you feel it's just one, remember that it still qualifies. So you're under level 2. Level 2, I like to say, is where compliance becomes operational. So it's more than just what you say, it's what you can prove over time. And this is ongoing. So it's not a one and done. It's not, oh, I'm level 1 and I'm done. No, this is annually. And same thing, it's a living environment. So you're going to keep having to update it. we discussed cost, and that is, like I said, it's a fear. I think a lot of the talk around cost has been more of a fear tactic versus an actual standard of cost. So there is a range, and I know it's a large range, but think of it more so that the cost isn't just about money. It's about the clarity, the time, and the quality of execution that you will get from whoever you decide to help you implement these requirements in place. So no, waiting does not reduce the cost. If anything, I think it will increase your cost if you decide to wait longer, thinking you have time. There's an old saying, you can't buy time. So you will have to make up for it for sure by waiting. So I would not recommend waiting long to try to implement this. So I would say get an understanding and a clarity as to where you stand. Is it level one? Is it level two? How much can be done internally? How much can be informal? And then if there's still questions and gaps in between that, then you reach out to a third party or a consultant to assist you there. Um, I can't see if there's any feedback or any questions or if I'm going too fast. It's kind of awkward having to not see you guys because I'm looking at my slides. So bear with me or let me know if I'm going too fast.
I'll definitely bring questions as we get them. I have definitely put in the chat for people are welcome to drop their questions, and I'll bring them to you. But this is perfect. You're going
Okay.
great, and I'm very interested in everything you have to say. And I'm sort of speaking on behalf of our audience as well.
Okay. Thank you. So yes, so the cost of level one, it does vary just like level two varies as well. There is a big gap, but it's like I said, figuring out where you stand. I know there's been a lot of talk, especially years in advance and leading up until now, that the cost could be in the six-figure range, which is absolutely stressful and ridiculous if you ask me personally, but I'm not here to judge. However, I think that even at that cost, those that have paid that amount are walking away with questions and still not in compliance. And they're having to redo the work, and they're finding out that they are out of budget, so they've made someone else at a lower cost complete the mess, and now they wish that they would have found a more reasonable price. So I definitely would say do your due diligence. Make sure that you have things in order and not just the cost doesn't mean that the quality will be right. So I would say to look make sure that's correct. Um
All right, could you go over what systems need to be compliant? Because there's some confusion in regards to, is it only the systems that are handling FCI, or is it all systems within an organization? Could you clarify that for people, please?
yes. So when you're doing it, we want to know all your systems. However, the ones that are in scope are the ones that are actually touching CUI or FCI, as well as the people. So sometimes you think it's just your computers, your laptops, your phones, but it's also your employees who has access to these things. So it's beyond just devices. So I don't know if that's a misconception or not, but it is more than just, oh, it's only this laptop. But what about when you're working remotely? Are you handling it from your phone? Do you have, are you sometimes at Starbucks? Who else has access to this when you're off? So I think, yeah, there's a misconception to think that it's only certain devices.
We do have a question. I'm going to put it on our screen.
Okay.
It's it's saying it's pretty basic, but just can you expand on just CUI? Oh, hold on. That was
Yeah.
my answer. Here we go. What is CUI?
Okay. So CUI is level two. and that would be considered confidential, unclassified information. So anything within a contract that you have, so that could be like diagrams, vendors, just things that can't be released. Some things we feel are minor, but to the outside world, those things you do not. And a lot of them are already labeled, so you will have an idea. I don't know if that's a good enough example, but it's what you don't want the public to know. And we think it may be more basic than the outside world, but it's not.
Perfect. Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sounds good. I'll let you know. Yeah, keep going, and then
Okay.
as we get questions in, I'll pop them in.
Okay. Just to double back, so that would be like technical drawings or like personal information, employee information, things of that nature. Okay. So back to level 2. So level 2 is more costly. It is the assessment, and like we stated earlier, you don't want to fail your assessment because that requires cost. Even just getting started is a cost. So there is no way around a cheaper route. So would you rather pay to have yourself at compliance, or would you rather lose revenue in the long haul by missing out on contracts, or overall losing your contracts? I think that is the more important conversation to have within your organization versus it costs this much. So I definitely have a budget, but be realistic with, can you afford to not maintain your contracts? We spoke earlier about, do we think that there will be companies that are completely going to miss the mark? And yes, there will be companies that are just going to give up, or just ultimately not prepare themselves to be in position to maintain their contracts and ultimately have to exit out of the market, which you've gotten this far. Like I said earlier, I think that the topic at hand is more complex than what we actually understand. So if you can get someone by your side that can translate it for you to make it more easier, you don't have to give up. You don't have to forfeit where you stand, and you can actually be ahead of your competition by maintaining your compliance. So I would say there are 4 practical first steps. If you learn anything from today, I would say, or I would hope that you at least learn these first 4 steps, because less than 50% of the defense industrial base even has these. But if you can get started here, it will be a good start. So number 1, a gap analysis, which is basically figure out where you are today. Don't try to figure out where you should be. Just analyze, reflect where you are currently, and then work towards filling those gaps. Next would be your SSP, so your system security plan. Think of it as your blueprint. If you don't have this already, then you basically don't have a compliance story. Your SSP should be able to act as telling a story by what we do, where's this in place, how can we show that proof? So being able to walk an assessor through your SSP will ultimately be able to match those controls that you've stated that you have in place. And it can always be updated as well. It's a living document. Step 3 would be your POA&M, so your plan of action and milestones. I think a lot of people get choked up here. They feel that if they have any milestones or anything that's not yet implemented based off of their gap analysis, that they failed already. and it's not a failure. So this is, think of it more so as a roadmap as to where you're trying to get to. So although you may have some things in place that you need to achieve or you need to implement, overall, it's a roadmap. So if you're trying to get from point A to point D, it's your GPS. How are we going to get there? And lastly, SPRS score. So this is the aspect that the government sees. It's your current posture and position in numbers. So after you've done all your steps, after you've looked over and see where you meet, where you stand, then you have to enter a score. I don't want to get too far in depth because I don't know how or where the audience stands, and I don't want to confuse them. But ultimately, that would be your last step for self-assessment, is entering your score. Okay, so I pretty much went over what a gap analysis is, which is basically looking in the mirror. Where does your business stand, and where are we trying to get to? Your SSP, like I stated, is your blueprint. Your poems shows your failures, shows your flaws. However, there's room for improvement. So that's why we have that there. Don't get discouraged at this point and think that you'll fail. This is actually a good thing. And then lastly, your score. Moving on. So that will be considered your compliance engine. And remember, compliance is not just about being perfect. So we want to be accountable and we want to move the needle. So that will be the objective. It's not that much pressure to put on yourself as to, oh, I failed, we're not going to make it. It's not that dramatic. So there's two options, at least I like to say that, of how to execute. So you could either do, like I said, internal informal route where you try to do it on your own, which I think for level 1 self-assessment, that's capable. And then there's also outside help. Maybe you just need someone to hold your hand, or you just need someone to go over what you've come up with internally. That's where I would say I would fall into place, or where I've positioned myself in that process. Maybe you've started and you're not sure if this is right. You just need an overview, or maybe you just don't even want to bother and you need help from the beginning. So I don't think small businesses need more information. As we stated, the information is out there. You guys need help with translation and understanding the concepts and understanding that what you're doing is actually correct. So I personally built a CMMC Level 1 assessment workbook, and it just helps small businesses with structure. I think Frank said that earlier about having structure, having something in place. So this will give you a better understanding of your environment and how to document where you are and identify your gaps. And as I stated, if you can't afford any of this, there's so many resources out there, whether it's Apex Accelerator, whether there's other organizations that have curated free tools to get started. You just have to do your due diligence, honestly. And it's ultimately up to you. What do you feel your business is worth? So what investment are you willing to put into your business? No one can determine that except for you. So you place the value on your business and what your budget is, but don't miss the bus. Don't miss the bus for your business. um, do not wait. We spoke about the deadline. We spoke about the cost of delaying. And I think a good point to make is three things if you wait too long. You'll lose your positioning. There's others that are just now getting into government contracting that are understanding coming in what's required. And then there's those that have been operating for years and think that I've been here, I already know what to do, but yet they're taking their time. So don't lose your position. You're going to be competing with everyone that's waiting to the last minute. And then we all know that there's a shortage of assessors and consultants to provide that. There's over 200,000 defense contractors and less than 1,000 assessors. So if you do the math, if you wait to the last minute, you're going to be trying to squeeze in. And it's not fun. It's like the lines at Disneyland. You don't want to wait in those lines. Just get the pass, get the pass for the rides to get to the front. So while you can, and while you can, and I would just like to end with asking a question. We know CMMC is already coming. It's not coming. It's already here. But will you be ready before it impacts revenue? And I don't know about any of you, but I'm in business to make money. I also like to help people, but we're here ultimately to make money. So if you don't have a contract or you're not, operating to a certain standard, you do lose money. And we never want to be in the red. So, figure out your route, figure out the way that you decide how you want to move forward, price, find your community, find your resources, find whichever works for you, but just start somewhere, please. Start, even if it's just the internal starting. So when you at least approach someone else, you say, hey, I have this. I'm not sure if this is enough, but this is what I have. So just start, because it's better to move the needle than to not get started at all. That's
Excellent.
that's
We
what
have
I
another
have.
question.
Any question? Okay. I will stop sharing and get back on.
You're stopping sharing. I'm gonna get us all back on screen. Hello. Good to see you. Okay. So we have a question about how can these costs be absorbed?
How can they be absorbed?
Like, can they be added? They
think-
can't. I mean, I don't think they can be added specifically to an
Yeah.
extent to a contract, but how can you maybe, sort of be thinking about this as you are bidding contracts?
So working it within your budget. If you know that you want to bid, it's a non-negotiable. So if you have a budget for marketing, if you have a budget for anything else, you have to implement a budget for that as well. Like I said, if you are really, really tight, there are other programs. I don't know the weight. There's Project Spectrum. There's Apex Accelerator. There's other nonprofits within that sector that can help you, but I don't know how many people are trying to get the free resources. So just like when you decided to start your business and you were innovative and you probably bootstrapped to where you are now, you're going to have to get back to that mind frame and get in that position of how can I get what I need to get. So do as much as you can first, because that can kind of shave off some of the costs. If you have most of it in place, your consultant hours are going to be shorter because you don't have all these other things. So just try to do as much as you can and implement a budget. It's a non-negotiable to have a budget for your compliance and your security. It should be.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
I think that question, Philippa, might have came from when this all really started. One of the first things that the government came out and said was, "We're not going to give you any more money to make this happen." And that kind of stemmed from existing contracts. You know, so they weren't going to go back to contracts that were already, you know, awarded and say, hey, we'll give you money to become compliant. They were kind of setting a line in the sand and saying, we're not going to go backwards and give you money to make this happen. You know, whereas now with contracts, like when you're going through your contracts, what you as a company charge the government for day-to-day operations is totally up to you. You know, that might come into play with winning a bid or not winning a bid, but for the most part, I think a lot of people got really scared. They're like, well, they're not going to give us any money to make this happen. And again, I think that was more of a retroactive type of thing. They were like, oh, we're not going to go backwards to, you know, to give you money for contracts that are already awarded. So that there's a lot of confusion on that question.
Yeah. Even in the original documents, they had a layout of what they felt the cost should be. And there was a lot of pushback stating absolutely not. It will be far more than what was required. So I think it was just, like Frank said, an original like implementation that they had in there that no longer exists.
Speaking obviously that we're on a tight runway, can you speak to the time? And obviously it's going to be different for different businesses based on how far along they are. But if someone was saying, okay, I need to do my own resources to the best of my ability, and then I need to find a contractor, and then I need to book an assessor, what might someone want to think about from April through November in that
regard? I would say one, it's crunch time. So, and then like I said, there's a shortage. So there's people that are already on the calendar that are waiting for an assessment. So waiting will only put you at the bottom of the list. So you're up against time. You're up against those that, I mean, unfortunately, there are some organizations that are there for a money grab, and there's some organizations that are desperate. So you have to deal with the people that are willing to pay more to get ahead. So it's just one of those things where the sooner the better. I don't know any other way to express that. It's just, you have to start now. And like I said, even if that begins with an informal internal look at what you have in place right now.
And maybe this is a backwards the way to think about it, but how difficult is it actually to find and book that assessor? Are they sort of booked months out? Like, is it something like to say, oh, maybe I should be booking my assessment for September now, and then backfill my time to be really prepared for, as you said, the restaurant. What do you call these people who come in and do the evaluation of yes. Yeah. So is it something you have to kind of book ahead of time, or just because
it is something you have to be booked ahead of time? Even like currently I'm doing it's not CMMC, but it's a SOC 2 type 2, and they want to be done by a certain time. So when they reach out and say, hey, I need to have this assessment completed by this time. Can you help me get, prepared for this date? So some organizations are coming with a date in mind, but it doesn't guarantee that the date will be available for you.
I think one of the things that they're discussing, I'm not gonna, please don't quote me or anything, is the fact that when, like, come November, if I have an assessment scheduled, am I okay? They haven't really kind of said that, that tends to happen a lot in the government. So we're hoping that happens here, but we'll see. Again, nothing official has been said, but hopefully that'll take place, because it's my understanding that the assessors are pretty much booked. You're not going to get assessed between now and November.
Yeah, because it's real difficult to become a C3 PAO, those who can perform the level 2 assessments. So that's the thing too. You'll see, I think eventually more and more of them will be coming into the market because it's a lucrative market. But it is tough. And if you're a subcontractor, if you think you're even if you're involved in this space, you definitely should be looking into this and moving forward, because we talked about in the earlier one. I think these kind of governance requirements are going to be the norm. They're going to be the standard. And it does benefit you. Is it expensive? Yes. Security is always expensive, but looking into this now, I think will pay dividends.
So we have another question. I'll put it up on the screen here. What type, if any, certification should you be asking the consultants to hold? So what are we looking for when we're seeking a consultant to guide us through this process?
So I am a CMMC registered practitioner. There's also CCPs, there's also CCAs. And then there's also those who just have experience. So I think ultimately to not, water down anyone's experience, but it boils down to experience and can you do what you say you know how to do. However, that goes back again to doing your due diligence and making sure that who you decide to partner with has an understanding and a track record of delivering what it is that you need. You might find someone who has all this experience or only works with maybe level 2, but you only need level 1 and you end up paying the cost of something more. So I would say it would be nice to find someone within the CMMC certification space, but there's also those consultants that have been doing IT and they might be CISSPs, CISM. So it's doing a due diligence, making sure that they know what they're doing. So maybe referrals, but ultimately, I wouldn't worry too much about what's behind the name, but more so the experience and the credibility. What do you think?
Did someone explain the difference between like a practitioner, CCA, CCP? I think the difference. Could someone explain the differences between those type of?
We're going to go over it. I mean, at a high level,
Oh, okay.
CCA,
cool.
An assessor is able to do the assessment fully. A CCP is a practitioner; they can assist with the assessment. That's it. Baseline for the CCP and CCA. But Ray, I mean, her being a registered practitioner, she's recognized by the Cyber AB, the organization body, one of them behind, the CMMC. So it's huge. You can find her in the marketplace. It's, along with the experience, trust me, because what Ray said, it's 100%. I've seen people with, 35 letters behind their name. But when you ask them a question, you get that deer in the headlights look. So it's a balance of the two.
And then what you just said is there's a marketplace. So if you're looking for these 3 people, is the marketplace a place to look for both? So there's consultants, and then there's the assessors, and then the assessors can have people on their team. Is that what I'm understanding? Okay.
Yeah, for the marketplace, Ray, correct me if I'm wrong. Like Ray's listed up there as a registered practitioner. So when you go there, she's, Ray's done her due diligence to register and to meet those qualification standards. So, Cyber AB is, like certifying that they've done their research on Ray. So I think that is beneficial. But I can speak for the CCPs and CCAs, they're on there. Because, once you get all done, you get added to there. Because I remember changing my address. It threw up the home address. I was like, oh, no. So we removed that right away. But it's part of your research. It's a good part of the process. I'm not saying you would just generally go there and pick that person right away, but it is beneficial. It's costly though. It's not cheap.
There's also registered practitioner organizations. So there's a lot of different titles, but I think it's like high school. It's like the more acronyms you have after your name, the more you may be, but it's not, I don't think it's to knock anyone or to say one is more valuable than the other. I personally think experience and knowledge more than anything else. However, because we take and value our services seriously, we took the next step to get certain things behind our name, and those that are not yet assessors are most likely aspiring to be, and those assessors are probably aspiring to go a little higher. So ultimately it's the passion behind it and the knowledge as well. So that's how I feel.
And it seems that it's just a question. So for somebody who's making that investment of their time, their expertise, the cost investment to get those certifications, it seems like there's a long runway well past November of this work needing to continue to be done. Just because people are getting certified for November, it sounds like there's a continuing assessment that will continue to happen, as well as many companies who don't make that deadline but still want to get back on track.
Yes, like the self-assessment, the annual assessment. So you'll be doing this annually, which is why I stated these SSPs and things are living documents. They're going to be edited. They're going to be able to be edited, added onto, removed. So even when you onboard someone new in your organization, you now have to update your policy because you're giving them different access and all these things. So as long as your business is thriving and growing, so is your security systems plan. So it's a continuing thing, which I think is a good thing, because people get complacent and they get comfortable and they think because they did something once that it lasts a lifetime. So it doesn't.
And Frank, you talked about that before. You said, "Oh yeah, I did that last year. I'm good."
Yeah, it's so hilarious that we work in an industry where they brag about how many new threats there are daily, but yet they think they only need to scan their network once a year. It blows my mind.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of work to be done, but it sounds like we have such an amazing group of people here to do it. And I love that it spans the spectrum of it. And I'm just so happy to have this conversation. I think it's super important and very, very helpful. One more question as we wrap this up before we head over to our next session, which will be led by Frank. What is the role that you see of the major companies like the Googles and the Microsofts in their relationship in their federal and DIB departments or public sector? Because I'm seeing, for example, like I was just doing some research on Microsoft, and they had a lot of blogs and content related to CMC come out in 2022, 23, and then they've kind of gone super quiet from what they're talking about. That's not to say they're doing events and other things. I was just kind of in the blog world, but they obviously have certain tools that can be used that get people compliant faster. They just come at a price. But yeah, what's the role of sort of the big tech companies and their offerings in all of this?
I
want to
think
see
it's
what everybody
convenience.
before I go.
Okay. I think like Microsoft, I think Claude has one. There's also AWS. They offer convenience, I think, but I think then they go silent. So they have these high cost tools and products. It's a money grab for sure. And then they go silent because this is not a new topic. It's a hot topic. So, but it's evolving. So they have these tools, but because everything's moving so fast, they can't really keep up. So they go silent after getting the money because they have things on the back end that they have to continue to do. I think that they're helpful. They're a starting point, but you shouldn't solely just rely on, oh, I have this Microsoft tool and that's the end of it. In this industry, it's always zero trust anyways, right? So just because you have something, you can't just solely depend on it. I think it's helpful, but I don't think it's a one all and be all.
Yeah, Ray, absolutely. Shared responsibility model. They can only provide so much.
Okay, I'll go. I might piss them off, but I think they're responsible for coding, for letting us know how secure and unsecure their products can be. What I mean by that is, like when you look at security technical implementation guides within the DoD, the companies are in charge of creating those STIGs for, let's say, like Windows 11, for Cisco switches. I think we need to hold them to a high standard to make sure
Absolutely.
that they're meeting those standards. And if we don't, what happens is that we get products that aren't secure and don't even really need to be secure because no one's holding them accountable. And I think
Yeah.
it's, the federal government or us as, in a capitalist society, we need to hold them to a very, very high standard. And I think they can meet those standards, but I think we're kind of treading on this like very kind of weird water right now where we're trusting them a little bit too much. And we need to trust, but we also need to be able to verify. And we need to look at them and say, okay, you need to make it easy for me to verify that your products are as secure as you say, because there's a lot of companies, what they're doing is they're saying, okay, I'm secure, but you have to trust me that I'm secure. And you're like, no, we should be able to verify your security. And that's kind of not taking place. And they're kind of coming up with like these products that say, oh yeah, it's secure. How do I verify? Because I'm telling you. And we need to be careful with that. And hopefully we get to a point where there's a trust but verify kind of capability that takes place, but we'll see.
Yeah, with you saying that, it's funny how they put the pressure on us. We just go off of their name, the big brand, and all of a sudden, now it's flipped. Now we hold all the weight when, like John said, it should be equal. And I agree
Yeah.
with what you're saying as well, Frank. It's interesting how the tables have turned.
Yeah. Why do we need a hardening guide? Look at Cisco lately. They've had some 9.5s, 9.9. If I was a new company, I think I
Right?
wouldn't be going down that route. It's bad.
Yeah.
Why do you need a hardening guide?
Trust me, no one here loves Microsoft more than I do, but
Yes.
like we just don't hold them to that standard. So why should they meet that standard? I don't blame them. I kind of blame us, but it's up to us to hold them to that standard.
I think AI is going to help us there.
I hope so. I hope so.
I love that. I appreciate
And
it. I'm also
leading. No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say with that statement about. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know. I was saying, go ahead. Floor is yours.
Oh, no, I was just going to piggyback off of their statement. And I was going to say this almost leads into John's segment because with AI and humans work hand in hand, and there's so many new opportunities of creating tools, and there's a missing piece. So how we are expressing our feelings behind these large companies, there's going to be now someone that comes in and creates something, without a name as big as Microsoft or anything like that, that are going to come help implement these tools that we need. And this is why this space is such a good, not just for those within the contracts, but those within career pathways that are looking to pivot. There's opportunities on so many different levels. So I'm interested to see the growth and to be an advocate for those that are looking for a entry, not an easy way in, but just an opportunity. The opportunity is there.
I love it. I'm very inspired by it. As everybody here knows, I'm graduating in 2 weeks. I've finished at my mid-career reset in graduate school, and you've got a stage of nice cybersecurity career ambassadors. So I love being part of that program and inspiring other people's careers at the same time as I carve my own. And I don't know where I'm going to land. I do know that it's going to be in service to DIB, and it'll have a cybersecurity geospatial intelligence pathway. So I'm excited to be here to learn as well as to inspire others. And I love what you're saying about there are many career pathways that exist and are continuing to be formed as this progresses. And that, November is a big deadline, but that, these assessments will continue, and the roles and the work, it continues to evolve and to mature. So with that, I love it. Any final words, and we'll jump over to Frank's session. And Ray, thank you so much. Really insightful.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, we will see you in the next session for organizational readiness for CMMC, what leadership needs to own with Frank. So we'll see you all there next.